When history records the year 2025, one of the darkest chapters will be the massive wildfire that tore through Jerusalem and its surrounding hills, forcing tens of thousands of residents to flee for their lives. What began as a flicker of flame in the dry valleys west of the city quickly escalated into one of the most catastrophic wildfires Israel has ever faced. The Mediterranean heatwave, combined with years of severe drought, created a perfect storm for disaster. Within hours, neighborhoods, once full of life, were swallowed by raging inferno. Families grabbed what they could carry, rushing into evacuation convoys as firefighters battled walls of fire reaching the height of buildings. Jerusalem, a city sacred to billions, found itself choking under a thick cloud of smoke. For many Israelis, this wasn't just a natural disaster. It was a haunting reminder of how fragile life is in a land already torn by conflict, political tension, and environmental stress. The hills of Jerusalem, home to centuries of history, culture, and spirituality, now burned as if the very earth was crying out. Eyewitnesses described the scene as apocalyptic. Entire forests turned to ash. Schools and hospitals scrambled to evacuate. The Israeli Defense Forces were called in to assist emergency services, deploying helicopters and drones to fight the flames from above. International aid offers soon followed. Countries across Europe and the Middle East pledged firefighting crews, equipment, and humanitarian assistance. Yet the flames raged on, fueled by strong winds that turned the skies red. As Jerusalem faced its worst wildfire disaster in living memory, one question loomed. What caused this tragedy? Is it only the beginning of more catastrophic events to come? As the wildfire advanced into Jerusalem's western outskirts, chaos spread like the flames themselves. Entire neighborhoods were suddenly plunged into panic as loudspeakers blared evacuation orders. Residents described running through streets filled with smoke so thick they could barely see the cars in front of them. For 70-year-old Miriam Levi, the fire became a nightmare she will never forget. "I grabbed my wedding album and my grandchildren's pictures, and we ran," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't know if my home is still standing. All I know is that the sky was orange, and it felt like the world was ending." Thousands of others shared similar stories. Hospitals overflowed, not just with burn victims, but with people suffering from smoke inhalation and trauma. Firefighters heroes on the front lines described flames as high as 20 meters, leaping from tree to tree, faster than trucks could move. Despite their efforts, the fire line stretched for kilometers, surrounding villages and cutting off escape routes. The government declared a state of emergency. Schools were transformed into shelters for evacuees. Hotels opened their doors to families who had nowhere else to go. Volunteers handed out water, food, and blankets. In synagogues and churches across the city, prayers filled the air, mixing with sirens and the roar of helicopters dropping water bombs. But for many, the event sparked deeper fears. Religious scholars and prophecy watchers pointed to ancient warnings that in the last days, fire and destruction would engulf nations as signs of judgment. To them, Jerusalem's wildfire wasn't just a natural disaster. It was a chilling reminder of apocalyptic scriptures that speak of the earth burning and nations trembling. Environmental experts, on the other hand, emphasized climate change. Rising global temperatures, extended droughts, and deforestation had made Israel more vulnerable to such wildfires. This is no longer a freak event, one climatologist warned. This is a preview of the future. As day turned to night, Jerusalem glowed not with holy light, but with flames that refused to be tamed. The city of peace was living through a war with nature itself. By the third day of the wildfire, the devastation had become global news. Headlines from New York to Tokyo blared, "Jerusalem burning." Satellite images showed massive plumes of smoke drifting across the Mediterranean, staining the skies red and black. International leaders reached out to Israel, offering assistance. Firefighting aircraft from Greece, Cyprus, and Italy arrived, while the United States pledged technical support and drone surveillance to help map the fire's spread. Yet despite global aid, the blaze raged on, feeding on dry forests, fueled by fierce winds. Entire communities were reduced to ashes. Kibbutzim that once thrived with greenery and laughter now resembled war zones' charred skeletons of homes. Twisted metal and abandoned toys melted into the ground. One survivor, a father of 3, broke down in tears as he described returning to find nothing but rubble where his house once stood. We had 20 minutes to leave. 20 minutes to take a lifetime of memories and walk away, he said. The damage extended beyond property. Israel's wildlife reserves were decimated. Rare species, including deer and birds native to the Judean hills, perished in overwhelming numbers. Ecologists warned that it could take decades, if ever, for the ecosystem to recover. Meanwhile, conspiracy theories flooded social media. Some speculated that the fire was man-made, perhaps an act of terrorism. Others insisted it was divine punishment, prophetic sign of looming global upheaval. The Bible's references to fire consuming the land were quoted thousands of times online, shared alongside shocking videos of glowing infernos overtaking sacred soil. But for those on the ground, survival was the only focus. Families camped in school gyms, clinging to any news of when it might be safe to return. Humanitarian groups distributed food and medicine, but shortages soon began. Tensions grew. Parents struggled to calm terrified children. Elderly evacuees fainted from exhaustion. Volunteers worked tirelessly, yet the need seemed endless. The question weighed heavily in the air. Would Jerusalem recover from this? Or was this disaster the beginning of something far larger, something that could reshape Israel's future and echo across the world? The fire, unstoppable and merciless, had become more than a local tragedy. It was a crisis symbolizing the fragility of modern civilization in the face of nature's wrath and prophecy's warnings. As the firestorms slowly weakened, a haunting silence descended over the burned hills surrounding Jerusalem. Firefighters, coated in ash and exhaustion, finally began to report progress. The flames were being contained, yet the victory was bittersweet. Thousands of acres had been scorched, entire villages displaced, and countless lives changed forever. When the smoke cleared, the scale of devastation shocked the nation. Charcoal black landscapes stretched for miles, once lush forests now reduced to skeletal remains. The damage bills soared into the billions, with infrastructure, farmland, and homes lost. For many, the question was not just how to rebuild, but whether they even had the strength to start again. But Israel is a nation forged in resilience. Within days, volunteers arrived in droves, neighbors helping neighbors, strangers lending a hand to rebuild shattered lives. Schools and synagogues opened their doors for temporary shelter. Local businesses donated food, clothing, and supplies. The fire had taken much, but it had not broken the spirit of the people. At the same time, global leaders weighed in. The wildfire became more than an environmental disaster. It was viewed as a warning. Scientists linked it to worsening climate change, citing rising temperatures, longer droughts, and stronger winds as contributing factors. Yet for many believers, the fire held a deeper, prophetic meaning. Was this just another climate disaster, or was it part of the biblical warnings about fire, destruction, and the last days? Prophecy watchers drew connections to scriptures from Isaiah, Joel, and Revelations verses describing fire consuming the land, nations trembling, and the earth groaning under judgment. Jerusalem's fire, one preacher declared, is not just a tragedy, it is a trumpet blast, a wake-up call for all of humanity. Families who had survived spoke of miracles, homes spared while all others burned, children rescued from impossible situations, and firefighters surviving near-death encounters. These stories spread across social media, stirring hope amid despair. Yet, the greatest lesson may not be about fire itself, but about preparedness. The wildfire revealed how fragile modern life truly is. In hours, comfort turned into chaos. In minutes, entire lifetimes were left behind. Survivors stressed the importance of being ready not just with emergency plans and supplies, but spiritually, emotionally, and mentally prepared for anything the future holds. For Jerusalem, rebuilding will take years. For the world, The memory of this fire will remain an urgent reminder, whether viewed as a natural disaster or a prophetic sign. One truth is undeniable. Humanity is entering a time of greater shaking, and survival will depend on unity, resilience, and faith. As the embers cooled and the first green shoots of life began to push through the ashes, one message echoed loudest: we cannot ignore the warnings any longer. The fire may be over, but the story of survival, prophecy, and awakening is only beginning.